Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first in the series of Access webinars. We're just going to wait for a few more folks to arrive, and then we can get started. Just
Morning.
Give it a few more minutes.
Morning, all.
Oh, I thought it was like morning. Oh, dearie me.
Someone's had a good weekend.
It was a good weekend in multiple ways. A good birthday party.
Very good.
I was more chuffed because of our rugby score.
Yeah.
That was what I was. I was watching the rugby. It was fantastic.
Saw the comments floating everywhere.
Right, we're just letting folks in. We're going to make a start in a few minutes. Just give it a couple more minutes to let everyone in, and then we'll do introductions and kick off the webinar.
Oh, have you ever used these scribe things before?
I expect Jason. I would have said Jason had. He's Mr. Tech Bod.
They're really good. I've had it for a year now. Really good. Not doing a product endorsement, but
sounds like it. I hope it's not an advert. We're not allowed to do those.
No adverts. No adverts allowed. But a cool piece of tech for what it is.
I like my notepad, Adam. I'm still a notepad. Write it out. Tick box at the end. Tick it off. I feel like my world is complete.
I've got them everywhere, but this is the first thing I've ever picked up where an iPad will do everything and anything. This thing does one thing beautifully well, and that's allow you to scribe. It's still can't read my handwriting, but
it's my issue. Handwriting. So we get going, Mel?
Yeah, we can get going. If you haven't already heard, Access have taken over OutSource's socials this week, which we're very excited about. So they are literally in the room, and they are kicking off with a series this week of webinars, the first one being this one. Super excited to be doing this and spending time with Access this week. So before we make a start, we've got approximately 45 minutes. You're all muted. Sorry about that. But we encourage you to absolutely raise any questions that you have, either in the chat or the Q&A. And I've prepared some questions for Jason and Adam, but we'd much rather hear from you too, so that I will pick those up as we go and ask them to the guys. So before we kick off, can I just pass over to you, Jason, to introduce yourself, and then Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Mel. So I guess I'm Access as far as the call is concerned. So Jason Martin, head of strategy for the Access Recruitment Division. That's about 700 people in that division. It just thinks about rec tech. I get involved in looking after some of our larger, more sophisticated accounts, of which a lot of those are outsourcers, and also helping set the kind of like the cadence around the strategy for product direction and things like that, and some of the things we need to consider. There's far more brighter folks than me out there doing it as well, but I help chip in because I've been doing it for about 20 years. So that's me. Over to you, Adam.
Cool. Adam Gibson. For my sins, I've been a CEO, CTO for a good couple of decades now, in multiple industries. My last gig was with recruitment, executive search. Did a decade or two, or half a decade there with those guys. Now currently running an organisation called 17 Oranges, which is consultancy based, development based, and we help individuals and firms in the recruitment sector understand transformational change. Enjoying every minute of it.
Thank you. And as this is tech innovation and transformation, I just want to let the audience know you're in for a treat, because Jason can sell you the dream. In fact, he can tell you the dream and make it, it's a beautiful thing. And then Adam will bring you down to earth with a big old bump to say, actually, this is the reality. And this is actually in his experience, things that go well and go wrong. So you've got a really good balance of both here. So we're looking forward to this.
It's where the grey hair comes from.
Exactly. That's why Jason lost his.
I shaved mine.
Not
Moving on.
Yeah, less about the hair. So just to kick us off, Jason, I'll come to you first. What do you think are the key components to building a successful tech stack?
Okay, so I thought about this more really from an application tech stack as opposed to a traditional tech stack where you're thinking about infrastructure, servers, databases, all those sorts of things. So in the kind of premise of what we're talking about here, in terms of outsourced organizations, strangely enough, things like CRM isn't necessarily an important factor in these businesses, whereas in general recruitment, that's absolutely key and central to the tech stack. But really, in this world, when you're servicing outsourced clients, it's there's a few key pillars really. There's obviously your onboarding platforms, and trying to make those as self-service as you can do in terms of what they do. The whole supply chain, so VMS application, and how that integrates through to onboarding, and how you then manage your tiers of supply. If you're that sort of outsourcer in terms of how you offer things, but then you look at really to what you're trying to do with the client is you're trying to help them with the recruitment process, but also give them lots of information. So it's now it's all about big data and analytics and how you share things with them and how you convey that information. So for me is that those fundamentals of how you onboard people, how you source people, and how you screen people. But then it's then going to be about the data you supply back and the reporting you supply back. But the most important thing to think about is the integration between all of those components. Because what you often find is you buy different components from different organizations, and they should all stand in the market toe to toe with any other competitor software product to do the job. But it's how those things talk really makes the difference in your business. And I can't emphasize more, and I might rinse and repeat this word quite a few times throughout this discussion. Integration and the grey space between the applications is the key to success in terms of delivering solutions.
There's a key takeaway if straight off the bat. Adam, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I can echo that actually. That's really interesting because the key words is sort of how do you build a technical tech stack. And for me, the technology you have to be largely agnostic over. You should understand what your strategy looks like and build out against your target operating models. But the technical requirements are almost secondary. So the focus up front needs to make sure that you've got a framework that is agile enough and future-proof enough to allow you to swap in and out tech stacks as and when required. It leaves you in two nice areas. You've got a very powerful set of conversations to have with suppliers, as and when you're going through negotiation stage, but also as you're going through the integration stages as well. You can help lead the conversations. No, so absolutely, make sure the integration piece and the overall strategy is nice and agile. And the other one is bring individuals into the conversation early. So you're talking, and Jason's talking about sort of the technical elements of it, and you'll typically find when you're bringing in sort of masters of each domain, they've all got an opinion and which they want to share and drive their own agenda. Let's be quite clear about this. But actually, what's good for one particular sort of tech stack isn't necessarily good for another tech stack. So before you start that particular journey, be really clear what your outcomes are going to be or wish to be in the first instance, but also be aware they do move slightly as you go through that journey. So yeah, no, absolutely keep it fluid. Actually,
moving on then from that, what do you see, Jason, as the kind of pitfalls or blockers to building it besides cost?
So there's one really clear one which we see all the time. It's where people build out, or organizations build out, bespoke functionality around their business, and it feels good. It feels right at the time, because it's answering a business problem. But then unpicking yourself from that situation years down the line, and there's a few organizations out there that have such complex, bespoke solutions that they've built, that now trying to unpin that and put themselves into a different place, that perhaps they want to go down more of a SaaS route, or they want to go out to the general marketplace, trying to then unpin that thinking and all that development and all of that technology and put it in a SaaS world. It's really difficult. So
I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had conversations with organizations where we're going in talking about our great SaaS solutions, and you spend the first few months just trying to get them to think differently, because it's really tricky to do. And yeah.
I mean, yes, I've been through both as example, and I always try and emphasize the 80-20 rule. 80% of what you're doing at this point in time as technology stack should be pretty generic at the end of the day. And that last 20% that you think is unique to your organization, you can go off and do some development around the outside because you're trying to push the boundaries, and absolutely you should do. But you sometimes get in the danger of, and this sounds really awful, but you can get into the danger of, like, what I call vanity projects, where actually we're going to build this all-encompassing thing that's got it's got a swimming pool parked on the back of the tech stack. It's got everything at the end of the day, and before you know it, you're bumping up challenges as far as commercials concerned. Organizations and people lose track and thread of where they're trying to achieve, because building something new that is relatively complex at the day isn't a simple challenge, to be quite frank about it. So no, absolutely. Unless you've got,
that's where you've seen budgets blown, isn't it? Budgets get blown when people just go so bespoke.
Oh, yeah. You absolutely can do. On the commercial side of things, I think there's a lot of this, and you see lots of it in the press. And I do think technology gets a bad rap for budgets and lack of budget control. But actually, the organizations themselves, and you see them not just in this particular industry sector, they don't have a real grasp of what commercial budget should look like as far as technology steps. They dip their toes in with a very naive conversation. And again, it leans back into this: do you do bespoke, or do you do dare I say it, generic in-house stuff as well? So, which you can control an awful lot more.
Yeah.
So to that point, is that Adam, that takeaway around that, the 80-20 rule?
Yeah, you've where I've been successful is that you have a grown-up conversation with the boards about what they want to achieve and how you can apply it in a really sensible, calm manner. And I used to have this conversation, and we'd want to, this maybe a bit crude, but you want to run your technology stack a little bit like a Ford Mondeo. So all the organization can use it successfully. You all know how to drive it, how to manage it, and how to deal it. So that brings in sort of the peripheral tech stacks. And then where you're particularly refined, or you've got a particular focus inside your business where you want to excel, then go and build the Ferrari. Absolutely go and build a Ferrari, but don't miss the two. Don't confuse the two, because what happens is 9 times out of 10 you end up reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And before you know it, you've just built your old system in a very bespoke way for a couple of million quid.
Yeah. And I think what you also do when you go down this route of developing too much specific to your organization is you miss out on the opportunities that SaaS products give you nowadays. And a really clear example, you take one of our products in our lineup, Fincherry, has something like 250 improvements over the past 12 months, which customers just get. So effectively, the difference with projects nowadays is that they're always implementing. Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, you go live, but that project should always continue into the future. Every quarter, when you get a new upgrade of like 50 new features, someone should be looking at that upgrade and saying, how can we put this into our business? So projects now are continuous. They're never ending SaaS projects, because you should always be reinventing. But if you've bespoke the hell out of something, you can't take the benefit of those upgrades. And so to staying generic is you have to give something up, but you gain a lot more.
Yeah. But it's what you touched on earlier, isn't it, Jason? The future-proofing it. Because the one thing I know, I'm old and have been in this industry a long time, it is forever changing. It is moving and changing all the time, and your tech has to go with you. So talking on the projects, what are the key components for delivering a successful project, and particularly the change, because that's the a huge dynamic in all of this, isn't it?
So Adam will probably have more of a project delivery internal view here. I generally try to get people to think about what's the end goal they want to try and deliver. So if I've got a load of technology that's all in-house, it's doing various things, I've got loads of people touching keyboards and stuff like that, but actually we want to be self-service in everything we do. By the time we get to the end of this project, then what are the things I've got to put in place to try and achieve that self-service delivery? And I definitely ban the words BAU, and I definitely ban the words as is, and because that just doesn't help in the project.
Okay.
Contentious. I would look to where you want to get to and then reverse backwards. If you start from where you are now and start building forwards, you just keep grabbing in bits that you already do into your project.
Okay.
Go on then, Yin. As my yin of my yang is about to do something else.
No, I'm not. I mean, the whole conversation is about delivering projects. Okay. And let's be honest, we can deliver most technology projects and most things. It's just time, cost, and materials at the end of the day. You get through it one way or another. Whether it's a Ferrari or whether it's a Ford one day, we get through it.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line here. But how do you get through it efficiently and get to a point where you deliver what you actually ask for, or your clients ask for, your board has asked for? And that comes down to being really clear and having great people around you, being really well organized. I don't care what anyone says. I've been into so many projects over the years in different industries where you've gone in there and you've got this new product that's being delivered into an organization, but the company's not ready itself. So you sit there and you spin your wheels. Okay, so literally, and that's where the as is thing comes in really important, Jason. So especially in large organizations where you've got to have a clear understanding of how these companies are grown organically. And very often one arm might not know the other arm. And we see it in this industry more often, and the recruitment space and the people space is going through the step change now. I mean, most other industries have done it. We're right in the line of fire now for this particular change. So that's where as is, and that brings everyone together in a uniformed way. Okay. The danger you've got, and absolutely, Jason, is that you've got this lovely as is thing sitting in front of you. The danger is you go and rebuild it. Right. That's the killer thing. And that's where you need to lean into sort of the future trends, the future visions, the future people. We can go into that later on, but no, I do appreciate what you're saying, but you've got to have some knowledge behind it.
I also think it's understanding what success looks like at the end, or during the process, because I have seen tech implementation along the way, but actually when it's implemented and we get to the end, we don't know that it's been successful because we didn't actually understand what we were aiming for. I've been part of projects in that way, and and also being at risk of wanting something because everyone else has got it, but actually not truly understanding. And I think the outsource providers, my members, the guys on this call, have an increased problem because they've got, and Jason, you come across it all the time, you've got a staffing company with an outsourcing arm, pretty much. That's normally how it operates. And so the tech stack has to work for both.
And that's often where it goes wrong as well, because the recruitment company is sometimes in the bigger end, they're the bigger part of it.
Yeah,
they make a tech stack decision which they then apply to everything. Well, that doesn't fit in the outsourcing world. That's just like, we don't care about this stuff because we're the single client. This type of approach. So absolutely.
That has to have a lot more thought. So how can recruitment businesses generally measure the outcome and the improvements?
So that's a good question. I mean, there's. I think in the outsourcing world, it's about if you're changing your tech stack, it's about, in such a competitive market, it's about the differentiation you want to bring to the marketplace and perhaps to your customer base. So have you achieved that? I do quite a lot of work with AMS, and they do a lot of work in this space. They're always trying to differentiate and produce new things. I was reading over the weekend about they launched AI kind of like chat-based search tools for McDonald's, which is really unique in terms of the first people to do it. So have you achieved that differentiation? aspect because it's a competitive space, really big contracts. And have you done that? And then just simple stuff like, did you have a model of, how many were you trying to reduce cost in your business? Were you trying to improve integration? Have you done that? What are your KPIs around that? A lot of the people I work with who've got perhaps big pay and bill platforms will say, okay, we've got 30 or 40 people in India or somewhere with hands on keyboards doing things. We want to use robotics, or we want to use some sort of automation to try and reduce that down to, say, a third. Have they done that? So it's putting metrics around the business case. And I think ultimately nowadays it always has to have a business case that you can stand up against, and which often comes down to profit and cost savings that have been made. And can what I try and talk to people about is not so much savings, but can you grow more but with less capital costs? So can your growth curve go like this, but your actual cost curve just flattens out because the tech is enabling you to keep the same amount of resource in the business, but you can just keep going and putting more and more transactions through the platform. And if you're doing all those sorts of things, so they're all targets to aim for and things to measure for me.
Yeah, I agree. Adam, have you got anything to add to that point?
Yeah, I mean, the measures and the unknown knowns that keeps coming to my head, and I haven't done these a few times now. Sometimes it moves through a program and through a project as you start discovering things as well. But it comes down to, I guess, the cost of quality, the cost of rework, lots of manual effort, lots of rework. You can start understanding and see what that looks like. Time to market. You can be quicker and more agile with your approach. And what we were doing, what I've done in the past, is where you be transacting one or two particular roles, it may be, you can actually do 3 or 4, and you can schedule them to the pace the client thinks needs to be achieved, or whatever it may be. And yes, commercials, that's always an interesting one, and it's not always seen up front when you're blending sort of internal resource against commercial stacks. Budgets don't often align for that sort of scenario. We've written things in the past like called the golden thread, which we labeled it the golden threads, which looked at sort of how we could make incremental cost savings across the whole business through evolving a particular technology stack or a particular technology vision, for example, and see how that's delivered with people inside your organization being reutilized in more educated ways, which is great. It's the old Six Sigma thing, isn't it? You remove all the variation as far as everything's concerned, and you get these guys and girls using something really, really productive. And then there's the unknown known sort of scenario. It's like how your company feels, how your employees, you're attracting the right people to the organization now that are seeing you as a leading organization as far as your tech stack's concerned, and how you communicate and effectively work with your clients.
So important nowadays.
You dare I say, you sexify it. That's not a word, is it? But you know what I mean. It's like, if I'm going to come
to
you,
now.
It is now. I'm quoting that.
Did you actually say that? You said that.
Yeah. He said it, and it's a Monday.
You went till Friday. But it's, if you can get people to emotionally on board with your technology, like Apple have done very successfully in Google, for example. I know we'll never get to those grandeurs, but once you've got that hurdle, that's holy grail, you're into a really good place.
And I had actually, in keeping it really real, in the sense that in a previous role, in one of the companies I work with, we had probably one of the worst candidate onboarding setups that I've ever seen in my life, to the point where we just threw people at it because it was just awful. And when I arrived at the company, we had about 20 odd people just doing onboarding. And candidate, as we all know, is king and has been for some time, king and queen. And therefore, the process was broken. The people were demotivated doing it. It took too long. It was a bad candidate experience. And I know there's other providers out there, but we did actually end up in implementing Access. The change was phenomenal.
Yeah,
that's all I would say. The improvements were beyond measure, in the sense that, for me, the most important thing was the candidate had a much better experience, and therefore it was much quicker, so we could get them to the end client a lot quicker. So to your point, Jason, we could grow it. And that same organisation, I now know, sell their onboarding facilities as an additional service to their own customers. So we went, you know, in that scenario, you went from somewhere where I was actually embarrassed as the MD of the company around it, to actually then later on being able to sell it. They're that confident in what they do, and being able to onboard, you know, quickly and effectively and efficiently was paramount. And yes, the people save was massive, but it was much more than that, much more.
It's and that's, you know, that's the exciting thing about tech stacks for me in this space, is that I now see customers that are using the tech stack to go and pitch all the time, and the tech stack is actually central to the pitch.
Yeah.
And you know, the onboarding, screening, compliance type stuff, people got into really doing that a few years ago from a pitching perspective, because they wanted to prove how serious they were about it.
Yeah.
Because compliance was becoming such a big topic. So they would pitch up with their tech stack to say, this is what we've invested in, to show you how serious it is. And you can see how over time, to use that horrible word, sexify, that Adam's just coined, you can see how that will become more and more part of the pitch. Is, you know, this is how we go to market. This is how our business operates.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And that flows actually into my next question. You know, how does that integrated tech stack just enable the business to offer a much better experience for the candidates and the clients? Because overall, you know, in recruitment outsourcing, that's the deal. You've got to be able to, you know, delight your end customers and the candidates. And it doesn't matter whether they come through a third party or whether they're direct source by the MSP provider or the RPO. Yeah, it is absolutely critical.
Do you want to go first, Alan?
Yeah, there's two lenses to that. One is how you integrate inside your organizations or your organization, your firm at the end of the day. And the second point is how do you integrate with your clients? And it's the second one that leads into it, which is really interesting. Integrating all your services inside your organization, what we just talked about, ultimately it should give your end client a better experience, be it cost of delivery, speed of delivery, or quality delivery. You know, they're the three main component parts of it, I guess. But if you can get a relationship with your supplier where you're integrated into your supplier, I know this is another topic, then actually you can start looking at the pain your client has. So in many cases, your clients are coming to you for a particular scenario, for a set of reports or for people, etc. And if you can start looking at their challenges inside their organizations and resolve it through your technology stack and your integrations, well, A, you're pretty damn sticky at the end of the day, and C, you've actually got B, A, B, C, it is Monday morning, isn't it? You know what I mean? But B, you've actually got a longer lasting relationship with them. And you then move away from this sort of client customer sort of supplier relationship to partners at the end of the day. And I've seen some really interesting sort of exercises over the years where you then get invited back further and further and further to help resolve their issues and their concerns or whatever it may be. And it becomes, it's nice. It's really good.
Yeah, it changes the whole dynamic of the relationship, definitely. I've got more questions, but I'm just going to prompt the group whether they've got any questions they want to post either in the chat or the Q&A. I've had a note from one of the folks who couldn't stay on the call, so she's going to send me some questions, so I'll fire them across to you, Jason, probably later today,
no problem.
and perhaps you can connect directly with that member. So I guess my last question is quite a big one, and so I don't know who wants to go first here, but what is your vision for the future regarding digital transformation and the industry?
Oh, it's going to get faster. Here's the reality. If you look at banking, retail, manufacturing, automotive, they've all gone through transformational changes of one way or another, and very successfully. So the end consumer out there, be it the client or the candidate, whoever it may be, is used to this now. And dare I say it, we are now in our, from a people business point of view, we are now entering into that particular space, and we're having to go through our step change. So as far as the adoption of technology and the use of technology, it's only going to accelerate. And the second thing is, dare I say, it's a cultural change as well. So as new individuals with new ideas and new ways of thinking who are used to this automated technology stacks and the modern, it's not old, but the current way of working, you're going to get thought processes that don't currently exist. So do you know what? It's actually a really it's a really cool time for the industry. It really is, because you're going to see some significant changes come through, and they're going to come through from organizations who are looking at it now and actually willing to change now and gamble a bit in terms of what the future looks like. So yeah, it's this is our step change time. It really is.
So I've done a few conversations lately around this sort of subject, and clearly the word AI comes up all the time because it comes up everywhere. I guess a few things to say around AI automation and things. So AI to me up to this point has really been something that the marketing people use in software companies or in recruitment companies, because it's catchy, it's good, it does stuff, but it's effectively automation dressed up as AI. So something doing something on our behalf from an automation perspective. And then ChatGPT came along, and people were trying to do things with that. And I think there was good examples of where ChatGPT is being used now in recruitment agencies to reformat CVs, find things out, all those sorts of things. But what I've not seen is really credible software companies coming out with strategy on it. What I have seen in somewhere like Access, so Access, 8,000 employees, about 2,500 developers, at board level now, having serious discussions about AI and how it's coming into the product plans, and how it's all of the products going to be laced with AI throughout it. So you can see that big software companies now are taking it seriously, and in the next 18 to 24 months, we will start seeing real world examples of AI coming out into our tech stacks from the big suppliers, and that will have really credible meaning and well thought out product design around them. I don't even know what they are necessarily, but all I can tell you is they're now taking it seriously, and it will arrive on your doorstep via an upgrade at some point in the next 18, 24 months would be my take on it. But in terms of things that I think we're going to see more of, lots of tech around diversity and inclusion. We just made an acquisition of a business called Diversity, which is an amazing platform around diversity. So we've made that acquisition to put it into our stack as quick as we can. Crazy stuff like augmented reality, VR in the future for onboarding people. It seems a bit mad now, but you could see that in a couple of years' time, stuff won't be mad. Things that we think aren't mad now were quite crazy 3 years ago. So for onboarding, online job fairs, all that sort of stuff. I was out to dinner the other day with a friend who's an ex-Access person who's just part of a new startup, and this blew my mind a bit around chatbots and AI and automation. And he's now part of a business that effectively they're doing so much automation around the chatbot that can just inject into different systems within the tech infrastructure and just answer queries, but also just automate tasks. He said one of the crazy things was I could apply for a job or have an interest. He said, and using effectively deep fake technology, we can have, after about 30 minutes, a pre-recorded video come back to the candidate to say, "Hi, Dave, from the recruitment consultant. Thanks to your application half an hour ago, I've now put you forward to this stage." It's a completely deep fake video that's been created just to make that person feel good. He said, and it is just doable right now. And it's so clever in terms of how it's done. So yeah,
I still think a lot. We rely heavily in recruitment outsourcing and recruitment generally on the end customer.
Yeah.
And I have in outsource, we have the client community who I talk to a lot. And one particular one who will remain nameless, but they own a significant biscuit company, and they have a managed solution for that biscuit company. And within that, I was looking with this particular chief people officer. They're still running spreadsheets on their contingent workers.
Yeah.
And that to me is scary, because, you know, and also we held a leadership and innovation event not that long ago, and we invited a couple of clients along, end user clients, and they were talking about, here's some of the future stuff that we'll be doing on your behalf as a customer. And Georgina, who was sitting at the client side, she works with MediaCom, she's like, Mel, we are so far away from there. You know, we're almost so behind you. You're gonna have to pull us. So to Adam's point about it's going to go fast, my God, we'll be pulling the clients along by their hair.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of big tech suppliers that are going to help with that, but there are lots of these innovative little things as well. And the market's going to be full of them. And I think in the recruitment sector, we don't even know the art of the possible at the moment. We're just literally trying to work out what might be possible around automation, AI, chatbots, you know, video interviewing, all that kind of stuff. It's going to accelerate at a heck of a speed over the next few years.
Okay, I've got a question actually from the group. So Tom Davenport, thank you for your question. He wanted to explore, you know, the risks and negatives of integration, especially around maintenance. You know, are there times when it's better not to integrate, in your opinion?
No, sorry. But if you, going back to the headline conversation, if you write it in a flexible framework to start with, then your integration is going to be, you can chop and change. Okay, if the supplier changes, unless you want a complete standalone system for one particular reason, whether you're working over the particular authority, then I don't see, there's no more additional work for it to have them integrated. I can't think why.
If you don't integrate, you've just got manual hands on keyboards doing stuff. But I guess my two answers to that would be, one, just buy an Access tech stack. It's all pre-integrated. It's all about recruitment, so it's fine. But you know,
there are other systems on the market available, I must say that.
Yeah, and you can integrate them into it if need be.
You know, even with our own tech stack, you know, they're all separate products that go to market as CRM, pay and bill screening, all those sorts of things. They all have to be able to stand alone by themselves. But the thing that we really focus on is that grey space, that integration in between, because getting that right is what makes a business flow. You know, how the front office team, the data they input and how they input it, how that flows then into the middle office operational area, dictates how that middle office flows and works. Because otherwise you have downstream problems around billing and timesheets and all those sorts of things. To get billing and timesheets wrong, how that goes into accounts is so important from an integration perspective. The integration is actually more important than any aspect to me.
Yeah, the key question to ask your suppliers, Tom, is, are they API first? So if they write API first, then they write the integration, write the product afterwards effectively. So you can share everything. And that includes things like if you're going between time card systems, CRMs, ATS systems, they all have the same logic associated with it. So it should actually make your life easier if you ask those questions up front. And actually, if that 20% where you are doing the work that's bespoke and they are API first, that makes your life a little bit more easier on that side of the fence as well. You're not writing custom integrations for bespoke products.
So we've got 5 minutes to spare. Now, Tom actually ended up emailing me because he said there was problems with the chat. But I know Zoe was able to use it. So I just want to make sure if there's anybody else got any other question, they're able to log it in the chat. And if you can't, can you email me? And then I can just quickly pick that up. And see whether there's any more questions coming in. If not, I might give you 5 minutes back on your Monday. Look at that, gift that keeps giving. That's me.
Sounds good.
Okay, let me just double check there. Nope. Okay.
Well, I guess one thing I would say, having Adam on the call, is, you know, when I look at us as a business, big software supplier, we get invited in by customers to come and come show them our wares, and we try to advise as best we can, because everyone's now a third, fourth generation buyer. People are smart buyers nowadays. So you're not actually selling, you're advising. If you're not actually advising people, then you're getting it wrong. It's all about advising and consulting nowadays. But I do find some of the best situations I go into is when you've got someone like Adam or his business there that's actually advising that business, and perhaps they're the foil in between the suppliers and the end customer, and helps both navigate together in terms of how they work. So, just when you do go out to make acquisitions from a tech perspective, perhaps employing something like 17 Oranges, Adam's business, as a foil between to help you get the best out of both parties is really, really useful to do.
And less grey hair.
Yeah,
and
pass
hair.
all the hair issues to the experts. That's another key takeaway from this session. Okay, well, thank you both very much indeed. Adam, as always, insightful, peppered with humour and new words that we'd never heard of until today. So
my gift to you.
Thank you.
Never to use that word again.
Just to let you know, tomorrow Access are back. They are doing another webinar at 2 o'clock tomorrow, which is the what, how and why of DE&I, which is creating a data-driven, diverse culture. So yeah, there's still time to register for that webinar if you would like. But thank you both indeed. I think there was a few key takeaways from that I think the audience can definitely use moving forward. So really, really appreciate your time this morning. And what a way to start a week. A Monday morning. Here we go.
I have to lie down now, I think.
Thanks so much, guys.
Lovely seeing you guys.
Take
care. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye.